Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Roundup. Today we have another episode of the Roundup. Today we're taking a different turn. We're not talking to marching members or directors, but we are actually talking to a volunteer of Atlanta CV, Mr. Eric McDaniel. Welcome to the podcast, Eric. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm great, Dylan. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on, man. I think this
Oh, of
is what
course.
what you're doing is really good. It's putting a lot of exposure on DCI all age, and it's phenomenal.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you so much. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Thank you
Good.
very much. So, before we get things started here too far in, how did you get involved with music? Do you have any music background? And getting into what's your background?
Well, actually, I am not a musician. I have messed around with guitar a little bit and stuff like that. I love music. But how I got started in marching was when I was a kid. About when I was a kid, my mom and dad were both members of the band auxiliary at Springford High School outside of
Oh,
Philadelphia,
okay.
Pennsylvania. And I know you've talked to a few people that are up that way. But the really funny thing is I always loved the band, and we used to have cavalcades or competitions.
Mm-hmm.
As
Yep.
a matter of fact, I think they just had like their 65th was this year or something like that. Their 65th
Yeah.
cavalcade.
Yep.
But the biggest thing that got me on drum corps was my dad drove the school bus for the band,
Oh,
and
okay.
our high school band would be the exhibition band for Reading Buccaneers home show.
Oh, nice.
So I got to go to a couple, two, three drum corps things real early on, and I grew up being a Bucks fan. I'm still a Bucks fan, but I got a different family down here in the South now. So go CV.
Yes, definitely. How did you get your start in volunteering?
Oh well, volunteering has always been something that's been big in my family and everybody I grew up in. I'm a 35-year veteran of the fire department, so
Okay.
I'm always going out doing stuff for other people, helping out wherever I can and stuff like that. So um, it's just a good way for me to give back and stay involved with some things. Especially, I retired from the fire department in 2012, and I've been doing band dad stuff since 2012 with McEachern High School, and then in 2015, I think it was, I started working with Atlanta CV.
Okay. Very cool. How has the role of a volunteer changed over the years?
Um, I would say not so much for me in particular, but I've seen most of the high schools and the drum corps. Obviously, in drum corps, the members pretty much do everything. You move all the equipment, you work on it, you service it, everything like that. In high school, it's a little bit different. You have a lot more parents and stuff. But I have seen since I got into it in 2012, uh, unfortunately, a marked decrease in the amount of adults that are able to help at the high school level. And then I've also seen some of the drum corps, even though you have a lot of members, it really does help when the members don't have to do so many ancillary jobs. They can
Mm-hmm.
focus on their show, their marching, their presentation, and stuff like that. So if anything, I've seen volunteer help slack a little bit, but
Okay.
I think it ebbs and flows. You get a good group. We've been in a rebuild for last 2 or 3 years. I mean, I think everybody has been if you consider what COVID did,
Yeah, definitely.
to us and stuff. Everybody kind of had to start back at square one.
Yeah, exactly. How did you get involved in Atlanta?
Well, with Atlanta CV, like I said, I grew up in the Northeast, so I was used to the drum corps and the drum corps scene from a spectator standpoint. But uh, when I first heard about CV, I was working as a band parent with McEachern, and I was doing some fabrication on their props and stuff, some welding. And David Stahlberg, Dr. Stahlberg from Atlanta CV, came to us over here because we used to rent their King bugles in the off season. And he came over one day and said, "Man, I really need this screen so we can change uniforms on the back sideline. I know you guys do some welding and stuff. Is there anything you could do for us?" Well, we put together two big screens that they used first time down at the Georgia Dome, and the next year they had a little bit of something that they needed, and then the next year I found out they were looking for a truck driver, so I started driving truck for them, and they were paying me. And when my commercial driving got good, I didn't want them to pay me anymore. Besides, they opened they welcomed me with open arms, just like family from almost day one. So I was more than just a driver to them because I was totally interested in the core and the instruments and stuff. I helped push on the field, and I had people go to me and say, "Are you sure you're all right? Because the truck drivers normally don't do this for us."
Oh, okay.
So just found a great group of people, and just they're my family.
That's awesome. What are a couple of what are some of the roles that people can do have as a volunteer?
Oh God, man, it's almost limitless, really. Some of the biggies are obviously volunteering to be a board member, or to help out the staff. I mean, you know how the staff is comprised. A lot of people may not know that you have a director and some executives, and then you have some caption heads, and then technicians and leads and stuff like that. It's crazy the amount of positions that we do because we're educational in background
Hmm.
too. We're not just here for competition. We're here to teach life skills, music, humanity, everything. So going back to the volunteer thing, those officers positions are very important, but also just the hands on. I mean, sometimes we'll tell folks that, hey, if you can pick up a paintbrush, if you can sling a hammer and drive a few nails without busting all your hands and stuff or your fingers, um, we can use you. There's always something. Another biggie is food. Um, DCI All Age typically doesn't have the food trucks and stuff like World Class and stuff like that, because we're generally weekends, and so we'll go ahead and arrange for some catering here or there, but we don't have a food prep type thing all the time. Uh, Another big one is uniforms. Uh, those uniforms need to be cleaned. Well, ours need to be cleaned a lot more often than we clean them. But yeah, I mean, uniforms is a big one. Just the actual alterations and fittings takes a long time.
Mm.
Let me throw another one out for you, and we're gearing up this year. Hopefully, we'll have a much better footprint. We kind of missed out on our souvenirs last year at finals. We had a logistical problem and we weren't able to set up our booth.
Oh
Um,
no. Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's what happens. But there again, there's something where some volunteers could definitely be handy. And I'll tell, this is for any group that's out there, that you might have some volunteers that come around all the time, but you also need a list of volunteers that can just help out, at a moment's notice, or say, hey, I don't need you for the whole summer, but I really could use you a couple weeks, or and they could drive, just helping out with the daily activity, especially on show day, because
Yeah.
how the performers are just so focused on what they need to do to be able to perform, that you really don't want them spending all day worrying about loading the truck and unloading the truck and where's the food coming from. the more of that day to day stuff that you take out of the marching members' hands, the more they'll be prepared to perform.
Okay, very cool. What is a typical day for you? Take me from like it's a show day. Say you have a show day. What time are you leaving, and then what's the daily schedule for you then?
Oh, okay. Well, the great thing is our directors have always made sure that there was a schedule out well in advance, and somewhat it's a to be determined type thing, but we generally have time frames that we're trying to meet by. Most of the shows that we do are within, I'd say, no more than 5 hours from us. At South Carolina, which Crown Beat is one we'll be going through this year
Hmm.
that we
Yep.
missed last year because the buses took off and the tractor trailer only made it halfway down the road before my brakes locked up.
Oh wow.
So we never made that show, and unfortunately, we spent all that money to drive over there and back in the coach buses, but uh, it did end up getting rained out, so nobody really performed. But
Hmm.
um, like I said, the directors and stuff like that, they'll put out a schedule, and then from my standpoint is what I do at the beginning of the season. Once I have the schedule, like that dropped today, if it's a place we haven't been to before, I will go ahead and I will get different routes that I can go. I'll use Google Maps and I'll drill down on the areas so that I can see where, we may have some food places, where the local medical places are, pharmacies, hospitals, stuff like that. Just so that we know what the area has for us.
Okay.
Then I go ahead and I make my trip out according to how the truck will run, and we generally don't convoy like the bigger corps do. I generally try to get the equipment truck out an hour to 2 hours or more ahead of the corps.
Okay.
That way, no matter what I run into, the chances of me getting there to the show site or the practice site, I'm going to get there a couple of hours before the corps does. Uh,
Okay.
Especially on longer trips. Like when we go down to Atlanta, when we just go down to Atlanta, everybody drives their car, and half of them are behind me, half of them are passing me. So
Oh,
that
nice.
one's an
Okay.
easy one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I just I plan for the truck to run a certain speed, and that helps out. Plus, I always give my directions and my itinerary to the executive director so that they know where I'm at and where they can expect where I should be. And then
Okay.
we generally stay in close contact, the whole way. I wear a headset when I'm driving so I can take phone call if I need to or make a phone call. It's a pretty good thing.
Oh, cool.
Uh, a typical show day for us is they'll unload the trailer, do some warm up, some visuals, some practice, and then there will be okay, it's time to load the truck. And as soon as the truck is loaded, I'm generally on the road.
Okay. What
Hmm.
time do you typically in the morning? What time do you typically head out in the morning?
Well, for us, most of our like all of last year's shows, pretty much they were getting to um, our home location is at Cass High School in White, Georgia, which is Uh, probably about 5 miles outside of Cartersville, and that's probably about 30 miles outside of Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
So the core and the staff will start showing up, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Uh, that's when they start. Uh, like I said, normally I'll just leave a couple hours before them. We'll take the trip up to Indianapolis this past year. I actually left at 2 o'clock in the morning and was up there at our housing site. Oh God, 5 or 6 hours or more before they were.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
Okay.
and sometimes it happens like that because you have three charter buses with 90 people on it, and they've got to stop. Everybody's got to have a restroom break. you stop to get food and stuff like that. So a lot of times they'll end up getting delayed. They were pretty delayed this year. There was some issues, but one of the things that I'm going to try to do, take on this year a little bit extra, is try to work more closely with the bus companies,
Oh,
to
okay.
see where we can, because everyone, sometimes the buses, they have to run the DOT hours of service, like truck drivers do,
Mm-hmm.
and the way they have it set up is if we're on a long trip, like say we were going to Rochester, like we used to, they can only drive about 8 hours. So what they typically do is they'll have a set of drivers waiting at a certain location, and when the drivers pull in, the ones that have been driving get out and they get to do their rest and then go home, and then the new driver takes over and takes us the rest of the way to the destination, and then
Okay.
same thing on the way back, so that way they can keep rolling. Now me, when I have a long trip like that, I've got a sleeper, and I can just shut down wherever I am. We're typically the truck drivers, we can drive up to 11 hours
Okay.
in within a 14-hour day.
Okay.
And then you have to have a 10-hour rest period before that starts all over. But there's some other ways to, within the law, to get around that, and some of them is like splitting your time in the sleeper as opposed to driving, having
Mm.
a second driver. We don't have a second driver,
Okay.
and it's something that we are definitely considering, because earlier this year, actually October 11th, I guess it was, the next day I was supposed to pick up a tractor to make 2 runs for McEachern. One was a football game on Friday night, and then a competition on Saturday, and I had a full blown gallbladder attack
Ooh.
Thursday night, and was
Oh,
having my
wow.
gallbladder out on Friday.
Sheesh.
So fortunately for McEachern, we have a couple, two, three backup drivers, and they were able to get not only a driver, but a driver that has his own vehicle.
Oh, good. Okay.
And that's even better. So they were able to cover, but it just goes to show. And that's one of the reasons why I got my CDL is we had driven up to Towson, Maryland with the high school for BOA, and our truck driver got shut down by the police. Uh, he happened to be on a road that a big truck's not supposed to be on,
Mm.
and the officer let him go the first time. Circled back, says, "Now just get back on the highway and stay off my back road."
Oh, okay.
So our driver did that for a little bit and then got back on the other road, and I guess that trooper probably figured him out. So he spun around, came back, and told him. He says, "Well, I gave you your chance. Now I'm going to have to shut you down." So
Uh-oh.
they went back out to 81, Route 81, and shut him down in a hotel.
Ooh.
So, but hey, he could have given him a ticket and all kinds of stuff. But that started me to thinking is, man, if we're out somewhere on the road, that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Now, the one nice thing is on Facebook, all the DCI and DCA drivers, we have a Facebook page called DCI Truck Stop,
Mm-hmm.
and so we all, for the most part, stay in contact with each other and stuff. And especially at the beginning of the season when people, cores are looking for drivers and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So I would imagine if we really needed a driver, we could find one, you know,
Yeah.
fairly fast. But it is something to think about, is having somebody that does have a CDLA, so that they can
Okay.
drive a big truck in case something happens.
Yeah. Now, do you have your own truck?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
We typically rent from Ryder. This year, part of us being in with DCI allowed us to go off the Penske contract, but we had some difficulty with with some insurance language,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's one of the things I hope to have straightened out uh, beginning of the year so that we can use the Penske trucks because it was a substantial cost savings.
Really?
Substantial,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if you can share this, but how much does a typical truck cost for a season?
Uh, Anywhere from $175 to about $250 a day just for the vehicle.
Wow.
Then, depending what contract you're on, you'll have to pay certain like 15 cents a mile. Plus, you have to pay for all your fuel.
Oh,
So,
okay.
a typical run for us, let's just say we would go over to Wetumpka or something like that. Uh, we're probably talking about $400, $450 for the big truck for that one just over to Wetumpka and back.
Okay.
So it's not too bad, but I mean, yeah, it would be great to have our own truck because then what happened several years ago, there was a very, very big shortage of tractors because especially coming out of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many places that had to increase shipping because people weren't working, this, that, and everything else.
Yeah.
That year that we came out of COVID, because I think what was it, 2020? We
22 or
2020 we did the
20 was
visual, right?
COVID. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
23, you couldn't get a tractor.
Really? Okay.
Oh, it was tough. As a matter of fact, I think our last year, no, our second to the last year in Rochester, I was actually at the Kenworth dealer to pick up the tractor, and they had an issue with one of their leased units that was out on the road with a lease customer, and they pulled that truck right out from underneath me.
Oh,
So
wow.
we had they gave us a box truck to rent, and then we had to go get a U-Haul. But that's how we made the trip to Rochester that year. I mean, almost like 2 days before we're leaving.
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah, oh yeah. We were trying everything to get a tractor so that we could pull the big trailer, but we ended up going in two box trucks, and it wasn't it wasn't a lot of fun. But
I bet that
hey,
was a nightmare. My goodness.
oh yeah, it was. But if you know our motto from Atlanta CV, it's Semper Gumby, always
Okay.
flexible.
Hmm.
You,
Okay.
if anything's going to happen it's going to happen on a trip, on a show day, and
Yeah.
so you just got to be ready for it, be flexible, and do what you can to get around it and get the performers on the field. That's what we're there for, is to get the
Yep.
performers on the field. That's
Mm-hmm.
our mission.
Definitely. So what are your thoughts on the DCI DCA merger?
Oh man, I tell you, when I first heard about it, um, I didn't know what to think. I
Mm,
knew I knew that it was going to be, tough because anything like that is generally has a lot of moving parts and a lot of
mm-hmm.
things that were, you'll get this, well, we used to do it this way or we should do it that way. And I really think the way they approached it, um, I love the way it worked out.
That's
I mean,
awesome. That's great.
even this year, a lot of people said, "Well, it really wasn't that great because we only got to perform one time. We did a sound check." But see, that was what a lot of people may not understand is that was agreed upon by the
By the
directors
director.
at
Yep.
DCI to give our members a chance to in a new venue. Now
Mm-hmm.
we had not all of our kids because we've had two really uh, large rookie classes the last 2 years, just unbelievable. We've had some vets come back, but not as many as in years past.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're dealing with all new people, and most of them are on the younger side, high school age. They've never
Mm.
played in something like that.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of our vets have played in Mercedes Benz. They've played in the Georgia Dome, so the inside thing wasn't as big. But I'll tell you what was big. And I saw this firsthand looking at my core down in the tunnel waiting to come on the field, and just for sound check. And there was probably a dozen of those students with tears in their eyes
Oh,
because they could not believe that they were in marching Mecca for the first time and they were going to be on that field. And
yeah.
that meant so much to so many of them. It meant a lot to me, just that we were there together.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, it was just a fantastic experience, even from my standpoint. But sharing it
Good.
with those kids, oh man, it was
Oh, I
wonderful.
bet it was amazing. Yeah.
Yep, it was wonderful. And I tell you, the way that they ran it. I mean, the other thing that I do is, I do the parking of trucks and buses and stuff when we have events at McEachern, and
Oh, okay.
I've done the DCI show when we had it here at McEachern the year that they were building Mercedes Benz.
Mm.
We had to take the show, and I'll tell you what, for our high school is like a college campus,
Oh,
but
really? Wow. Okay.
even our parking area, man, that was tough to get all the big cores in there for a Southeast regional, but we
Oh,
did
I
it.
bet. Yeah.
So I know a lot about the logistics on how the parking goes and stuff like this, and I know a lot of the guys that run it, Dave and everybody out there, and I love seeing them, when we get out there. Hey, you're still hanging around, that kind of thing. But I couldn't believe how smooth it was.
Really good.
Yeah, from my standpoint as a driver coming in, like I said, my job is to get there early and set up a location where the Corps will know I'm at. They can come and do their thing. And just the flow in, the flow out of the trucks, the people in the stadium, it was just it really, really was well run.
That's great.
Yeah, and I would have liked. I didn't have much time because I was taking in a lot of other things, but I would have liked to seen how the sound sport, how that area worked and
Mm.
stuff. Is because it would also help me understand. Because from what I understand, this coming year is we're going to do championship runs for individual awards, and then the top 12 corps from all age will perform for a grand champion.
Yep.
And whoever doesn't make it to perform for the grand champion, I believe, is going to go and do exhibition at Sound
Doing
Sport.
sound sport. Yes.
And
Yep. That's what they announced.
I think that's a phenomenal idea
It is. It is really cool.
because the
I
more
think. Go ahead.
yeah, no. The more we interact with all the different groups, all age, sound sport, mini core, alumni, the better it is.
Yes, I think this whole DCI absorbing DCA was so great because even if you look at the schedule this year that just dropped today, like you can tell there's more performance opportunities for these groups. Like
Oh
I was
yeah.
looking at Atlanta, they have like 7, 8 group shows this year, and they're all DCI shows, and it's just great to see the growth that it's having, and the membership is growing on all the cores, and interest is through the roof. I'm hearing about different groups.
Oh yeah. Some of the cores that I've talked to, like Mike Lark up in at the Buccaneers. You know Michael. I think
Yeah, yeah,
he's been on your he's got his own
yep,
podcast. I didn't even know it.
yeah,
And I'm
yep,
like, and his is really good too. I liked it.
yeah,
But just the amount of people that when we were in DCA, we kind of thought everybody knew, or thought a lot of people knew that we were an option to prepare for junior core for the
mm-hmm,
younger students and for age outs to come. And we got some of that, but the amount of interest from people that have been an age out for couple 2-3 years, and now all of a sudden they realize they miss it. They got a
yeah,
place they can come back to. Or the other thing that I really like is when I see more of our previous students coming back as staff
Oh,
and
okay.
technicians and caption heads and stuff, because a great number of people that are in this activity are here because their whole life is music. They're directors, they're conductors, they're composers, they're musicians. It's phenomenal. I mean, and the other cool thing about DCI All Age is kids that are just learning to drive cars, and there's people that are lawyers and business owners and moms and dads and grandpas and grandmas. It's you know,
It's amazing. It's
yep.
cool.
I like it a lot. I really do.
Yeah.
DCI has done great. DCA has done a phenomenal job of moving the organization over in there. I know
Mm-hmm.
it can't be easy. We're not seeing everything that's behind the scenes,
Yeah.
Uh, and the one thing that I was afraid of at first is that humans, for the most part, tend to focus on the negative things too faster than they do on the others. And
Yeah.
I really was afraid that this was just going to get the bad thing going, because we do have some very, very opinionated people
Mm-hmm.
in our activity, and that's all right. I mean, you can point to any number of things, whether you want to talk electronics and drum corps, performance, uniforms, whatever you want to talk about. There's going to be a difference of opinion, but for the most part, those differences are what make us all, uh, you know, want more for drum corps. I
Yeah.
know it does for me, because I know I watched when I was a younger person. I watched a lot of stand and play,
Mm.
and I've also watched precision drill, where your your judges were down on the field walking with you, and if you guys were out of step, a half a step,
Oh,
you were
yeah.
getting ticks.
Oh,
I mean, the
yeah.
judges were looking down lines, man, like with lasers. And so I can appreciate that part of it too, but I can also appreciate the heights and stuff that these performers can reach today. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, actually, last year was my first year I've actually been able to watch All Age because, yeah, I knew about it, but I wasn't able to access Box 5. But with
Well,
On Flow, it's so much
yep.
easier to be able to watch it and stuff. And I just think it's great. And the interest has just blossomed, and more groups coming into All Age with the evaluation portal. And it's great. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, and honestly, I think as far as the televising of it goes, I'm pretty sure that they should be able to absorb it right in, and I hope that there's not some kind of big price increase for it,
No, I don't
uh,
think so.
because in my mind, I would say, hey, I'm going to have a lot more subscribers, because
Yeah.
like you said, you never got to see us before because we were always on Box 5, if that. Now we
Yeah.
CV had played, because there weren't a lot of DCA groups down here after Alliance, closed up and stuff like that. Um, we went to DCI shows all the time. Sometimes
Oh,
we would
okay.
go and just get comments.
Okay.
Uh, but a lot of years, if we paid for the judges, uh, we could get judging, and then our scores would work coming into finals, which used to be in Rochester, and that was tough because sometimes we didn't get I mean, your opening season scores, which are generally lower, you know, we go half a year and not have a score posted. And
Okay.
then I think the one year we showed up, we had a 72. We came in second. We were coming into finals in second place or something like that with a 72 or something. And
Wow.
yeah, it's just it. But the other thing that I hope will happen out of this is that some of the areas, it's tough to run a show, because unless you have some cores that can get to you fairly inexpensively, if they're not out on, and I'm talking about the old days with DCA,
Mm-hmm.
it was tough. They were better off going to a DCI show,
Yeah.
okay, because they knew that the cores were bigger, they were going to have some fans there and stuff like that. Like we've had home shows in the past where it was just us.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's I mean that's the way it has to have been the last couple of years, but we would definitely like to be inviting a lot of other groups. I see us maybe branching out and having a lot more to do with Cincinnati Tradition,
Oh okay.
Columbus Saints. A shout out to Columbus Saints. Our first year in Williamsburg or Williamsport, they stuck us on an elementary school field for the first night for practice, which was terrible. Had a drainage
Mm.
thing right in the middle of it.
Oh no.
And the Columbus Saints had a spot in a park in downtown, and they made arrangements and told us, go use our spot. We're not coming in Friday night.
Wow.
So shout out to them for that. Really
That's
appreciate that.
awesome. That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's how we were. Well, and then what happened, the rest of it was Cadets 2 invited us over to Loyal Sock High School, and we just used a different part of the high school than they did, but went over there and practiced together. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I just think it's great that like watching like seeing like these shows this year. Like I was looking at the schedule. Like um, there's a show in w- Williamsport. It's gonna be a big one because all age groups and world class groups, and that exposure is just gonna be great
Oh yeah, yeah. Was there a show for Allentown as well
for
for next year?
yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, good.
Allentown's gonna be this
Because
again.
yeah, because like Allentown, for me growing up, Allentown was always the Pennsylvania mecca.
Yeah.
The Allentown show was always huge. Let's see, what am I looking for there? Yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to be busy. I don't have any details yet on what the show's going to be.
Oh, okay.
Uh, we've actually, let's see, we're just doing our open house was 2 weeks ago. Our next camp for auditions is the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day,
Okay.
and we'll start winding that up. This past weekend, Cass High School was at Grand Nationals up in Indianapolis, and I was
Oh,
up
okay.
working on our new trailer that we picked up in the
Oh,
last
nice.
year, and because we have a loose affiliation with Q2, the indoor drum group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and see, that's what's nice there is where we're based. Q2 is there, Cass High School, and Atlanta CV all in one spot.
Okay.
Uh, so a lot of our staff are double duty and stuff like that. We have some really really great people. We've had great people as long as I can. I've been with them since 2015, and I know some of the people that were here for years and years before, like Marvin Fontaine and Rob Scott and Dave Stahlberg and stuff like that. Ken Huff. Those guys are still involved, especially on our history night.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys know it, but in Atlanta CV, um, we have the stars, and the stars are basically the little ones that we wear around our neck are just little replicas of the breast star that goes on. And how that came about was the very first uniforms that they got, besides just t-shirts and khaki shorts, had a little badge thing. They were police uniforms.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they thought, well, we got to put something there.
Hmm.
So they went out and they got the star and they put the star there, and the star has become our main symbol. And every year, uh, the way we used to do it when we had the traditional uniforms is you got a small star and you marched the whole season. And when you went to finals, that's when you got your big star
Oh, okay.
to put on your uniform. We've kind of reversed that a little bit now because we generally have a themed uniform shirt at
Mm.
least. So there's no place to put the star. So we give out the little stars, in the beginning of the season and then present. Uh, but there's a ceremony, and it's called the Star Ceremony. And basically, and I love it because Marvin and Dave and those guys come out and they do a little history presentation on where the Corps come from since 1996 up to today. Uh, you know, and kind of welcome all the newbies in.
Okay.
And then then they'll present the star, and once it's one thing to get a contract with a Corps, but it's another thing to finish a year, and now you're cemented with that Corps forever.
That's awesome. Yeah,
It's really, really phenomenal.
that's really cool. What are some of the biggest changes you have seen with the merger between DCI and DCA?
uh well, first off is just the scheduling. um and I haven't seen it personally, but I know from talking with my directors that the amount of assistance that's available from the DCI staff is amazing. It
Okay.
helps you get things. I can see all kinds of places where being able to purchase, combine purchases with other groups and stuff. I think that's something that might end up coming out of this. Uh, I also see a better chance of, there's certain groups that have had strategic partnerships and stuff, like Buccaneers and Crown.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see more of that.
Good.
Some cores have their, like Blue Devils, I think have an A and a B,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that you're going to see a bunch of that, uh, because financially it's obviously it's gotten harder on the cores.
Yeah.
Inflation is terrible, but one of the things that really kicked everybody's butt is just the fuel. Fuel
Yeah.
prices. It's amazing. I mean, I normally figure when I'm calculating for a trip, I'll make it 6 miles to the gallon. That way,
Ooh.
that's the worst that my truck can run. Normally, the trucks that I get these days are running between 8 and 10 miles to the gallon for diesel, and
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot. It really is. But uh, there's other way. Like I said, you put them in 3 box trucks, especially if you're running gas, you're going to run a lot more money than if you were just running some diesel in a
Yeah,
single.
exactly.
Yeah, so it is kind of crazy. So I think one of the biggest changes is in the financial, because obviously the cores, there's a larger fee set for DCI, but on the other hand, look at how much more assistance you're getting. We're getting personal assistance from DCI staff that knows their way around. They know companies. Like if you needed to buy something, they have contacts at companies. Go talk to this person. Go talk to that.
Okay.
I I just see, as far as positive change. And
Good.
I honestly think that anything we come up with that ends up being a mistake, or ends up not being quite right, I think that most of the important folks in the cores and at DCI are focused on correcting it as quickly as possible and figuring out how to make it stay efficient for the future, because everybody wants this to succeed.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody that I've really talked to seriously about this that does not want this to succeed.
Yeah. What is one of the best things about being a volunteer?
I can go home. If I'm tired and I say I've had enough for the day, I say, Russ, I'm going home.
Oh, okay.
No, it's as far as that goes. I t- Me personally, I tend to overdo things.
Mm.
So I'll be there working, and sometimes they'll actually tell me, "So, man, you got to stop. Stop. Take a break. Go home. Whatever." But the nice thing is, a couple years ago or a few years ago, um, I had the great pleasure of working with a guy by the name of Kevin Shively, and he he's from Augusta, and his son was marched with us, and he's I think an army sergeant major, still works for the government as a matter of fact. But him and I, just two peas in a pod. We got along on everything, and he took care of. He was the main logistics cat.
Okay.
I mean, everything from handling the props to handling getting stuff on the field to getting stuff off. He had a mind for logistics, and Kevin was good at it. Um, as far as that goes, it's being with those people.
Mm.
Uh, Kevin, the staff, you know how the staff goes. They stay together pretty much. Our staff comes out, we mingle and stuff like that, but they're always focused on what they're doing. Well, the same thing with the volunteers. We're over here, going to lunch or whatever, maybe having an adult beverage or two every now and then, uh, over a meeting or something like that. But it's you know, I get a lot out of volunteering and helping, especially when I see somebody do something really, really good.
That's awesome. What are you looking forward to most for this upcoming season?
Well, I really want to see how the whole finals thing is going to work out. And I can't wait to see how much bigger the crowd is going to be this year, because we
Mhm.
had we had a larger crowd last year than I can't say that we've ever had, because like I said, we've played for Southeast Regional in the Dome several times, but beside that fact at the Dome, that was the largest crowd we've ever played in front of.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they were pretty loud, and I have a feeling that there was a lot of people that weren't sure whether or not they wanted to come to all age, but
Hmm.
they have heard the buzz.
Yes. The
And
buzz has been like
oh
I've been
yeah,
watching Facebook and the buzz is just amazing.
yeah, and Dylan, you and Mike and guys that have podcasts, and girls and ladies that have podcasts, you are fueling that fire.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And
That's
I
awesome.
just
Thank
think
you.
it's going to be phenomenal. And the other thing too is I want to see there's a few vets that aren't going to come back this year, because hopefully they'll get a contract with maybe the Boston Crusaders, or
Hmm.
Jordan, or whoever, the Cavies. We have a few that we love to get. That's our thing, man.
Yeah.
Let's prep these performers to go to junior corps, enjoy however many years of junior corps, hopefully age out, come back to us, march, become a staff member. I mean, that's the biggest thing. So I'm just really, really looking forward to seeing um, how much better it's going to be than last year.
Yeah. I'm excited for this year. I can't wait.
Oh yeah.
I think this all age is just it's great. It's wonderful.
Yep.
I mean, I hope the directors vote in January to keep this a permanent thing.
I
But I don't know
to,
how that's gonna work. How that's gonna all play
to be
out.
honest with you, I don't see how I don't see how we can't, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's a spot where a sanctioning body has the muscle to be able to pick us up and use us the way DCI has.
No. No.
They, they're we fit so well into their plan. They
Hmm.
they did a monumental thing by carving out the time that they did, but
Yeah.
I mean, everybody benefits. I don't see any losers in this deal.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what advice would you give to people wanting to jump on board with any group and get their hands dirty and volunteer?
Oh, well, with anybody, the first thing is just just to reach out. If you even think you might be interested, but you're not sure, just reach
Hmm.
out to somebody that's in drum corps and go visit. I mean, we're like, we love it when people come around and ask questions.
Oh,
And
okay.
yep, and that's the biggest thing. And if you're not sure, I know the group that I'm with, the truck team that I'm with at McEachern a while back, we had a discussion. And I mean, we've got some guys that are engineers from Georgia Tech and this and
Oh,
that. We've got,
wow. Okay.
we do a lot of welding, and we have some phenomenal props and stuff like that. Stuff you see on DCI, almost at
Mhm.
DCI level stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were not coming out to help us because they were intimidated by what they saw us making.
Really? Okay.
And we had people come and say, "Well, man, I can't do that." And that's when we started to realize we need to go back out there and tell them. Like I said, we tell everybody from high school level on up, if if you can work a paintbrush, if you can just hold stuff, if you can sew, if you're good with duct tape, WD-40, whatever, if you can make Gatorade, um, we can use you.
Okay.
So sometimes, honestly, sometimes it's just a fact of you need somebody to go run for something. Like,
Yeah.
hey, can you run down to Harbor Freight and get me this or whatever? So anybody that wants to, and if you have a specific skill, this is the other thing is, I came in as a truck driver, but I also do most of the maintenance on all the rolling stock, the keyboards and stuff like that. Uh, keep the pit rolling because you know how the inflatable tires are.
Hmm.
Always finish fixing those things. Building the props, maintaining the truck, the trailer, the golf carts. There is so much that can be done, and no one person really has to sweat it and do it all. If you have a good group and you can get some people that just a little bit of time is all we need. I spend a lot of time there, but we don't you don't necessarily need to be married to it completely. Um, but I think also that when you're in there and you're helping the core, week to week, or you're building a prop or you're fixing something, when you see them on the field and you see them do their thing with whatever it was you just fixed, makes you feel good inside.
Oh, I bet.
Hmm.
Yeah. Alrighty, Eric. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, I am so glad that you put the thing out there, and I didn't know if that's what you wanted or not, but I said, hey,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not a musician, but man, I'd love to talk to you because I think this thing is one of the best things in the world that we got going,
Yeah.
and the only way to make it better is to tell more people about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Eric. Well, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Roundup. I probably won't be back after Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. Thank a volunteer next time you see them, and have a great night.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Dylan. I appreciate it. Spread the word, spread the love. Peace.
Hey,
There
thank
it is.
you.
Peace. Good night.
Good night.